All right, there it is. Welcome back to another episode of Talk Openly. The weeks are just flying by, and I am here with my excellent and lovely friend Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hey Jack, good to be with you. Thanks
Good
for
to
joining.
be with you too.
Good to see you again.
Yeah,
Feels like only yesterday.
oh, sorry, say that again about
It
yesterday.
feels like only yesterday.
Yeah, my brain is not processing things very well today. So you might see that every once in a while. There might be like a little glitch that you can see kind of sputtering. So that'll be fun. We'll work
We'll
with
be
it.
mindful of your brain farts.
We'll be mindful of my brain farts. Yes, and that thank you for that segue. We're going to be talking tonight about mindfulness in everyday life. And I'm looking forward to that, Daniel. It's going to be good.
Me too. I'm stoked. How you doing?
I am kind of floored. I'm a little bit I don't know, Daniel. I'm a little bit exhausted and somewhat demoralized, not in any like major way, like minorly demoralized. I'm pretty impacted by political stuff, which is something that in my everyday life I have to be mindful of. But yeah, so definitely things in the news make me sad and nervous and all the things. Um, uh, yeah, there also just seems to be a little bit of a vibe in my life right now of like small mistakes. It's like little mistakes perpetually throughout the day. That are just like, it just kind of like weighs on you. You're like, wow, how many times can I lose something, right? Like how many times can I lose my work phone or my scarf or
How
my
many
head?
times did you lose your work phone anyway?
I've lost my work phone twice.
And, right.
But it's okay. I got him back each time, because people are good. So
Yeah.
for the most part. But yeah, like weird things like yesterday, I was walking home and there's a lot of people in Seattle who are living on the streets and using drugs and whatnot. But for the most part, I haven't had like any issues with anyone. People are just dealing with their own stuff, right? They're not necessarily like externalizing it at you. But I was walking down the street and this guy comes out of a storefront and just went like, ugh, like did one of the like, and started like kind of like yelling at me. And I just, just kept going, didn't necessarily speed up. You just kind of keep going. You don't acknowledge.
Right, right.
Um,
Don't engage.
don't engage. But yeah, it's like on any other day, maybe where I hadn't made a bunch of little mistakes, I would have just been like, okay, that was kind of, a little bit of adrenaline, but I can, move past it. But I just really felt it yesterday. I was like, ouch, that hurts. I don't like it when people don't like me, even if it's not even about me, like,
Isn't that weird how that kind of stuff can linger forever? I had I
yeah,
had a I had a woman one time do something very similar to that. This was like well over a year ago. It might have been like 2 years ago, and I still think about it on a regular basis. Yeah,
wow.
just
Yeah.
like that. Just like, it was a tiny little thing. Didn't last very long. No big deal. But that same sort of like intense, unexpected interaction, right? And then you're just like
Yeah.
it's like a little traumatic experience that stays with you for a long time.
Right. Yeah, it just kind of feels like you can really feel that person's pain. And I think that is their intention, right? Is that they want someone to know, like, hey, I'm feeling this right now. And no one cares. Like it seems like no one cares, right? Because unfortunately, yeah, no one
You're right.
cares.
Yeah.
They're right. And they want someone to know. And so I really felt it yesterday. And maybe as we're talking, I can feel a little bit of appreciation for that man, for just that I can feel his suffering. He kind of showed it to me. And
Hmm.
yeah. So I'm just feeling a little bit heartbroken
Okay.
about the world and
Yeah.
how hard samsara is and you know,
Yeah.
all the things. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. One of those days or weeks or whatever period of time.
Yeah, lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
One of those lifetimes. How are you, buddy? What's your world like?
I'm good. I had so I'm not into astrology or anything, but uh it was noteworthy that I had like this crazy sort of heightened energy going on fairly recently. And my girlfriend, she's also not terribly into astrology, but she pointed out that so I'm a Leo, right? And she was like,
Mhm.
"You're a I don't know how to say this, but yeah, the full moon is in Leo right now."
Yeah.
And she was like, what you're experiencing is to be expected. In fact, she called her mom up and was like, "What does it mean exactly?" And her mom was like, "Oh, well, it means like these super heightened energy states. They can be positive or they can be negative."
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was fitting actually in this case. It kind of there was this like crescendo of like this build up and crescendo of like this and sort of this just super heightened energetic state,
Yeah.
and it crashed after I had a talk that I gave on Sunday, and after that it kind of crashed, and I'm like, ah.
Good. Good. Yeah, 'cause isn't it so interesting how like that really strong energy, it's a little bit seductive, right? Because we're just like, oh, I can ride this wave, like this feels strong, I feel kind of
Yeah.
powerful, but it's such an edge, right? Where
Mhm.
it can teeter into like mania, which is exhausting. So
I'm
um
not a good surfer yet.
yeah, nor am I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and tell it, I want to hear a little bit about how how you felt about your talk and yeah, just how it went. What was that experience like for you?
It was pretty intense actually. The preparation phase was this sort of like soaking in it, like where I just like took in information from so many different sources over a period of a couple of months. I think it was. Like man, I just like I read and I listened to and thought about, but I didn't prepare my talk. Like I just like sort of like soaked in it, and then it wasn't until like the night before the talk that I actually wrote the outline for the talk and stuff. So I felt way not prepared or anything, but I had thankfully Sangha is really helpful in a couple of different ways. One of which was I got a lot of positive support from people along the way, telling me, giving me little tips and tricks and stuff like that. And also, when I look out there and I see all these friendly faces, I'm like, it's easy. I'm like, these, I could just sit here and just sit here quietly, and people
Yeah.
would tell me, yeah, hey, good job.
Totally.
It's an
I love
easy
that.
crowd, as they say, it's the sangha is a safe space for us to practice. So in that case, in this case, it was, that part was easy, and I was really pleased too. The experience of preparing for the talk was truly like a learning lesson for me. I had asked, we can sometimes, we can pick our own topics when we give a talk, or we can ask for help getting a topic. And Lama, I had been talking to him one day about my, whatever my practice, my training, and I said, hey, so I have this talk coming up, and I don't even think I finished my statement, my question. It was like right effort, and it hit me hard, like right in the heart. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
He has a way with those, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, he does. But I'm really grateful because the experience of learning about right effort, he was right. If that was his intention, to teach me, I think that it was effective, because I really took it in. Like I don't feel like it was such a like intellectual understanding of right effort in Buddhism, but it was definitely this sort of like, oh, oh, right, right.
Yeah, we get to explore from our personal experience. And yeah, it's always it unravels in ways that I never expect.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's fascinating. Lama, when I've asked him about topics, which I didn't always do. Like
Mhm.
my first few talks, I think I just did kind of like broad overviews of things and was like, "Hey, Lama, I want to talk about this," and he was like, "Sure," you know. But I finally did realize like maybe I should be asking my teacher what I should be learning and talking about. And it's very similar to you. It was almost like, yeah, the words weren't out of my mouth, and he was like, depression. Talk about depression. Um, and specifically like kind of the everyday depression of just this just kind of sucks, it's just a
Right.
drag, and because that's definitely what I struggle with every single day. I still do. I did a whole talk and all the things about it, and it's one of my special friendly demons. I don't think of it as a cruel demon, but just one that
Right.
I'm getting friendly with.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a process that unravels over time. It's not that kind of transformation. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, no way. Nope. And Daniel, I don't think we talked about it when we were recording yet, but you're in a different room. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here tonight?
Oh yeah, you saw me look up. So we're doing a little bit of a trial run here to see whether it makes sense to have like a live audience. So what was really quite wonderful, there's a meditation session on Tuesday nights. It used to be at 7 o'clock here in the Lions Roar dojo. It's called Everyday Mindfulness, and I rarely got to go to it because that's when we're doing our talk show. But Bill, one of the Sangha members here, suggested that maybe it would be a good idea for us to, uh, change the timing a little bit so that we can do both things. And I can participate in this, and perhaps he can participate in the talk show. And so, yeah, we're testing it out. So a few of the people from the meditation session are still here. I don't know if they'll stick around or not, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe they'll throw some questions at us towards the end. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's great. No, welcome everybody. And yeah, if you're listening online, know that that's yeah, a potential upcoming option that could be fun. And yeah, we welcome your questions. Um, Wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic. Great idea, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks for pushing us, Bill. We need Sangha, right?
Yeah, we do. Sometimes you just got to have the catalyst, right? Like everything's there, but you need something to sort of make it happen.
Work it. Yeah, for sure. Great. Well, what do you think about getting some Lojong mind training?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll share my
I
screen.
need it. I need it right now.
Oh, I don't know. Be careful what you ask
The
for.
morose mind.
Let's see what happens here. All right, here we go. So, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. And with kind of newer folks around, just so
Oh,
you know, I like to say this every once in a while because I think it's very fun, but this is the only random Lojong slogan generator, at least as we know,
in
in the
English.
universe, at
In English.
least in English,
Yes.
right? So that's a really, really cool thing that we have here. This is and what's nice about the generator, right, is that like there's a sense of spontaneity in it, as if you were to open a book and just land your finger somewhere. And so it feels a little bit like the pressure's both on and off when you do this generator. So let's check it out, Daniel. I love
All right,
this.
let's do it. I'm going to press the button for a random Lojong slogan. Mm,
Okay,
okay.
42.
Yeah.
Which I feel like this might be a new one for us. Um, so whichever of two occurs, be patient. So there's some commentary down below, and it says, if you suddenly come into a great fortune, do not become arrogant or become attached to it. Make sure you do not fall prey to the 8 mundane concerns. You should take this fortune as a basis for your Dharma practice. Some people who attract followers and material gifts become conceited by this. They then despise others and do whatever comes to mind. You must discard such behavior. Likewise, if you experience misfortune, such that the only thing that seems beneath you is the water flowing under a bridge, do not become depressed or demoralized, wondering how such an unfortunate person like me could exist. Do not be so downcast. You are incapable of training the mind. Instead, reflect, compared to the contrast in degree and intensity between the happiness of the higher realms and the suffering of the lower realms of existence, The contrast between pleasant and unpleasant states of human existence is not so immense. So, without further distraction, I shall focus on my spiritual practice, for it is taught, even if you are prosperous like the gods, pray do not be conceited. Even if you become as destitute as a hungry ghost, pray do not be disheartened. And that was Sei Chobu Choki Gyaltsen from 1121 to 89. Wow.
Yeah. I guess these kinds of situations have been around for a while.
They sure have, haven't they? From
Yeah,
beginning of time.
yeah, exactly that, right? I mean, the whole point is of trying to strike this balance to walk this middle way. And so, having something be overwhelmingly positive or overwhelmingly negative, that definitely can take us off the path. I think it's interesting, so it says in here, compared to the contrast in degree and intensity between the happiness of the higher realms and the suffering of the lower realms of existence. And a lot of times it's, like there are references to sort of like the God realm, right? Or to like the hungry ghost realm. But even sort of from a secular standpoint, you can narrow it down even more. And it doesn't even have to be the realm of existence, including animals. It can simply be like the human realm of existence. I had the opportunity a little while ago to to have a little conversation with a Sangha member who has since passed away, who was going through a really hard time. Had, I believe it was during like cancer treatment, and like they were really in a not so good place physically speaking. And what they told me, I extended my sort of condolences or sympathy, for what they were going through. And they said, well, it's actually really helpful for me to remember the just the different sort of the extremes of human experience.
Yeah.
So keep it very like just within the band of human experience. There's a pretty big big range there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, it was like I could be going through this in a war zone,
Right. Right.
right? I could be doing this on the street, the same exact thing, but the situation could be infinitely worse, right? And to that end, I'm like, okay, this is what's going on for me right now. And similarly, when we begin to sort of think about other people and other people having similar experiences, we can sort of like we can it connects us, right? We realize, especially when we're talking about the sort of the negative perspective, right? The bad days, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's important to remember, like, we're not alone in that, right? There are many other people who are experiencing similar um, they're having similar perceptions. Maybe the causes of their suffering or their pain isn't the same, but the actual suffering is the same.
Right.
Now,
And
as
that
far as,
impact.
as far as the other end of the experience, like being super wealthy and having all the things that you want or need, I'm not so sure that I can speak to that.
Well, and when I really think about what would it be like to have an immense amount of wealth, and I actually feel kind of repulsed.
Oh yeah,
And, like, of course, there is a certain level of wealth that, guarantees a better experience within this existence, right? We all want a roof over our heads. We all want to be able to eat, be clothed, and maybe have a little bit of fun. Those are things that just give like kind of a basic level of conventional happiness and security. But yeah, thinking about having like the process that it takes to amass wealth or to inherit wealth and the cringe kind of feeling that I get around like you would want to just hold on to it. And so what do you need to do to hold on to it? It sounds like a terrible existence. Um,
yeah, it
and
sounds pretty stressful.
very stressful. And so yeah, I really hope that like I remain, in a kind of situation like I am now. Because I think my mind would go in just in all manner of directions, unhelpful and unwise, if I were to have a lot of wealth,
Yeah,
as I think many of us would. But
I just want enough to not have to think about it.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, right. Yeah.
That would be nice.
We all want our basic needs met, um, and to feel comfortable. Yeah, it makes sense. And for our loved ones to be comfortable, of course.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
so this was a good one. it just reminds me of the one that we've gotten several times, which is, being mindful of like the three root causes, right?
Yeah,
That one that we've gotten several times.
we
And
sure have.
that's, having the conditions in this life to be able to practice the Dharma, that we've met a teacher who knows us personally. We are studying the Dharma. And we also have a community of people to rely on and learn and grow with. Um, those are just, invaluable. And that we've come to this time, that we're doing that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we should be focusing on, not whether we have a certain level of wealth or not, or so yeah.
yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm curious if anyone, since we have this live audience, if there's any questions so far, questions, comments, and complaints.
Oh, I like that you're just doing it right now. That's
Why
fantastic.
not? Why not? Well,
Yeah,
open it
not
up.
not yet, not yet, John.
Not yet.
I
No.
do want to say though, we do appear to have a, special surprise guest in the online audience who will be bringing on just a little bit later. So we won't announce it just yet, but I think you know who you are. Don't be too nervous. If you don't, if you're not them, you're good. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, if anyone anytime has like a comment, please raise your hand, join in. Um, but yeah, tonight, Daniel, we're going to be talking about mindfulness off the cushion.
Mm.
Last week we talked a little bit about, what kind of struggles we have while we're meditating. Um, and ways that we can kind of bring ourselves back. And this week is the post meditation version of that. um so let's dive right in.
I'm glad that we're talking about this. It's interesting to me. I've been meditating fairly regularly for a number of years, and there is, without a doubt, as we've talked about, there are these amazing benefits that can be witnessed quite quickly, right? And then it just grows and grows and grows. And I noticed there is this sort of like it's almost like the seated practice, it has this sort of radiating quality, right? That even if you aren't intentionally bringing it to the rest of your life, it can't help but be present, right? Your mindfulness increases across the board, right? It's not just when you're sitting on the cushion. But I think that one area where I wouldn't say I've struggled with it, because it hasn't really been there at all to even to struggle with, is intentionally being mindful in everyday life. There is this sort of like, yes, I am more mindful in everyday life as a result of my practices, my training. And that's wonderful. But I think that there's more that I can do by like wanting to, like, sort of bringing that intentionally, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the same kind of thing here, with regard to the rest of my life. Whether we're, I think one area where I'd like to see it for sure is in eating. You know,
mm,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Oh, well, what's interesting is that um, I've worked a little bit on mindful eating as well,
yeah,
and I'm still just at the point where I'm noticing that I'm eating beyond fullness,
uh,
but I keep going
yeah.
because I really like to eat. So
Yeah. Well, I'm not. It's not so much. It's not just like that. The eating. It's like a certain particular things, right? The junk foods and stuff.
yeah.
We had this Dharma dudes men's group that meets here every other week in the dojo, and one of the members brought in these delicious chocolate candies, s'more. They were, what were they? They were s'mores candy,
Yes.
caramel s'mores candies. Okay,
Oh.
yeah, from Costco. No, we're not supported by them. But oh my gosh, Jack. Okay, so like I saw them, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not even like much of a s'mores guy. Yeah, whatever. And I ate one, and I was just,
I must.
I guess I was super mindful. I don't know. I was just overwhelmed by it. I was just like, this is amazing. The flavors, the texture, and so much. And then I would like, I found myself like thinking about wanting, and oh, I want more, right? And then,
Yeah.
and then somebody left them in the kitchen, and
Yeah.
and I came in. It was like a couple of days later, and I was just like, "Ooh, I don't even know. I didn't think I needed it. Anything. I was like, I had just gotten back from the gym, you know, just been working out, trying to, make my body stronger, healthier, right, improve my health. And I was just like, I got it. Oh, so I had one, right, and then I had another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that, right? Like that's the nature of this sort of attachment and addiction and all that kind of stuff, right? Like we get something that we like and then we just keep chasing it. And it is in many cases mindless. In fact, I witnessed in this particular case, I was walking outside and I had my second one in my hand, right? I ate it as I was walking out to my car. And I got in my car and I was like, I wasn't present. I was so sad.
Oh,
I was like, I ate it. So I got those calories. Now
yeah.
I've done all the things, I have
Yeah.
it, but I didn't really get to enjoy it. It made me,
It's just gone.
it's just gone.
And it's just gone. Yeah, no, totally. I am a multitasker to the extreme. And so I know this struggle where it's like I'm trying to get things in while I'm doing something else. And so yeah, we end up just kind of like half floating through our lives, just kind of paying attention to something that's is not what we're actually doing. And yeah, there's just always this kind of like sense of just slight disappointment when when I kind of noticed like, gosh, I didn't even know what I was doing. The sad thing is when I realized that it's happening like in conversation with a friend. Sometimes even like in our discussions, I really have to think like, am I paying attention right now? Am I just thinking about like what I have to do after the show? Am I really listening to Daniel and what like
Are
he's
you saying you
saying?
sometimes aren't listening to me?
I'm saying exactly that.
Oh, you break my heart, Jack.
I'm so sorry. Well, that's what Talk Openly is all about, is we're trying to be transparent about our stuff, right? Because like we got to destigmatize this and normalize that actually all of us are doing this all the time. And one thing that meditation does uh, for us off the cushion is that I've started to notice just how much I am not present
Right.
for the vast majority of my life.
Yep.
Because in, a brief 24 minutes a day, I'm really intentionally trying, trying to bring my focus back. And it's really hard. And so then, the rest of my day, it's kind of like my attention is much looser. But yeah, it's like I'm not focused on what's happening in front of me. Sometimes I can, and then it's like really cool. Like today, I kind of, I was thinking about our conversation tonight. Um, and I was walking in between the hospital and the office where I work, is really great opportunity throughout the day. I have multiple times that I'm walking outside. And I just kind of I did a little pause in my mind and was like, Jack, how about you just really kind of like breathe in all the senses, like everything that you can like access right now, and just really, really feel it. And it's amazing, right? There's like all of this sensory input that's coming in. Turns out it's so much, it's a little bit overwhelming and beautiful. And then I just feel like the slightest little twinge of like really deep love, of like, oh, this is what's happening. I'm here. Like everything's kind of calling out to me to notice it. Like this isn't beautiful. Um, so when I am able to do that, it's quite lovely.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. One thing I wanted to share, I thought it was relevant here was I oftentimes find it just like you find it difficult when somebody's talking or sharing with me to not there's some kind of mental chatter going on, And it can vary, right? Sometimes I'm preparing my response to them. Sometimes I'm daydreaming. Sometimes I'm thinking like I'm judging them,
Yeah.
or whatever. Or in some cases, I'm like, okay, listen to them. Okay, pay attention to them. And that's not helpful either, right?
Yeah.
And so then I had this experience fairly recently. I was in a group meeting, and somebody was sharing something quite personal and quite like heartfelt and troubling. And it occurred to, I wasn't trying to be mindfully present, but I just thought, well, I'm going to do Tong Lin practice with this person. I usually my Tong Lin practice is on the cushion, but I thought, well, I'm just going to do it right now as I'm sitting here next to this person or in front of this person. And so I started breathing in, the dark, heavy, and breathing out the light, positive, doing the Tonglen practice. What was really gorgeous about it was my everything, my whole, everything is normally going on there just kicked off. It just dropped completely, right? And I wasn't sort of like intentionally trying to focus really hard and listen to every word. I was just there. I was just open. I was just present, very gentle, right? Not a lot of effort. And somehow during, like in that, I just felt this amazing connection. I heard everything that was being said, every last little detail, right, that was being shared. Not just the words, but the emotions, right, the underlying sort of texture of what was being communicated. And I gotta say, I think it's like the difference between like fuzzy old antenna TV and
Yeah.
HD plasma TV.
Oh
You
my gosh.
know, like it's so like you were talking of the way you described your experience from today. It's like that where all of a sudden you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, like it's all coming through.
Yeah. And like that's a real live human in
Right.
front of me. Like like I really think that my brain sometimes like shuts off the fact that there's other sentient beings around me.
Yeah,
And like I
I
Lana
get it.
talked about, that we think of ourselves as like the only subject in the universe. And then everyone else, even though we kind of get that, yeah, they're sentient, they're moving around, they've got faces, they talk and whatnot, but we don't actually see them as just as unique subjects in their own
That's right.
worlds. We see them as objects. And I totally resonate with that. And so there's this way that like mindfulness in everyday life can really like almost hit me like, a ton of bricks when I notice like, oh, this is a real subject,
Yeah,
human being in my like in my world. And they're having their own subjective experience that's really powerful, that's full of suffering. Um, and wow, I just want to be there with that. It's
yeah.
powerful.
I love that. So there's this aspect to it, and I don't want to over focus on it, but I do think, what we're talking about is this aspect of being very like fully present with whatever is there, right? And when we talk about being fully present, it can be quite magnificent. It's this and can be an amazing experience. But there's like more to it than just being sort of like super duper present with whatever is. I think the other aspect to it is um, that there's this sort of the awareness is there. I heard somebody describe this at a previous meditation. They'd heard the Dalai Lama describe mindfulness as loving awareness, and I really 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 like that because it's this what it sort of points to is this on the one hand we have hopefully some intention about who we want to be, right? Maybe we're striving to be bodhisattvas or Buddhas or something else, whatever that is. We have some intention, some way that we'd like to be that possibly is not the way we are normally, right? And so we want to have some transformation, we want to have some change, but we keep getting into these habitual patterns of behavior, reactivity, and whatever. But with that sort of loving awareness, what's really neat is if we have the strong intention, then we can watch our actions, we can watch karma, so to speak, cause and effect, right? We can see, am I, doing, engaging in actions that are leading to the thing that I intend or that I want, right? And so we can catch ourselves, and I love that. It's one of my favorite things. You and I talk about it quite a lot, right? That there's kind of a fun way of catching ourselves being who we don't want to be,
Yeah.
right? Can I give you an example of this?
Oh,
Okay.
please. I would love to hear.
All right. This is just this morning. Okay.
Oh,
So
great.
coming back from the gym, whatever, no big deal. And I'm fine. I'm totally cool. Like I was chill. And I come up to a stoplight. It's all red. I'm gonna make a right hand turn, but the traffic's super busy going by me. Apparently, the person behind me thought that I should be going, even though there were semi trucks whizzing past, right in front of me. Somehow they thought that I should just pull in front of a semi truck and go. So
Yeah.
they lay on the horn. They didn't just beep, they laid on the horn. And I know it was for me because
Yeah.
there wasn't anybody else around, right? And I could
That's
tell,
stressful.
yeah, I knew what was going on there. Jack, you wouldn't believe I'm a homicidal maniac.
Totally.
I had my no, it wasn't just like it was not no, it wasn't light like that. I had like instantly this sort of like get like I had this like I could picture myself getting out of the car and
Yeah.
just just
Yeah.
get off, right? I mean it was red hot rage,
Yeah.
and then I okay, no, no, Daniel, that's not
Yeah.
who you are, right? Okay, it's okay, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna watch, and I safely pull out, no big deal. Anyway, he comes zooming up behind me, right? I get on the freeway, and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then he gets up beside me, and I see him like zoom up and start tailgating some other person, like really aggressive.
Oh man.
And I thought to myself, I thought, God, I hope they die horrible
Yeah.
death. Like I was wishing so much evil upon this person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just, whoa, caught
Yeah.
myself. I
Yeah.
saw it. And then I applied a little bit of an antidote. I thought, I hope they get to where they need to be safe and sound.
Yeah.
Obviously, whatever it is, wherever they need to be is an important place for them. I hope they don't harm anybody else. And I
Yeah.
just sort of like I was able to sort of work with it a little bit, right? Like, but it was amazing to me, right? Here, I went from zero to like murder
Yeah.
in no time flat, right? Like it was amazing.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. And I mean, I have that experience yeah, maybe a couple times a week for sure. Where it's just like, oh my God, there's this rage within me. Like real like rage. And oftentimes I don't know if you have this, but um I'll like I'll start to catch it, and then I'm like, "I don't even wanna catch it. I don't wanna apply an antidote because this guy sucks."
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like your friends are holding you back, it's just your mind holding you back, and you're like, no, let me out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and it's so funny to be mindful of that mind, and then also to watch the process. Like I don't know if that happened for you. Were you able to kind of watch it and see like what was the resolution of that feeling like? Like what happened to the rage? What was the kind of arc of that?
It was exactly what you said. It spikes and then it comes down. Is I mean, that's the nature of impermanence. All things, whether you're talking about an emotion or a thought or an experience or whatever, it has something before, then it sort of leads up, and then it curves and then it ends, right? So it had in this case, the difference is like so. So sometimes I think one of the most beautiful things about mindfulness practice or meditation practice is that we reduce our reactivity, right? Our habitual reactivity. And so I actually described this exact same. I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I described what had happened to her. And she said, yeah, did you hear about, like, or not hear, but she said, I had an experience where I was on the freeway, got shut down for many, many hours because somebody had a fit of road rage and they shot a person because they cut him off or something like that and killed him. Right. And so it is possible, for us to react in extremely harmful ways, in ways that are going to hurt other people, that are going to hurt us. And in many cases, that reaction is simply lingering. It's not necessarily that we're going to pull out a gun and shoot somebody, but it's going to stay with us. Remember, like you were talking about the homeless person or whoever it was that did that
Yeah.
to you,
Yeah.
and then it lingers, it sticks around, and it kind of like it gets in your craw, so to speak, right?
Right.
Yeah,
It gets a little stuck. There's a way that it tries to manifest as permanent in your
that's right.
mind, that it's
Yeah,
like, well, this is still something that is harming me, when
that's
really it's just my mind like continuing to
right.
bring up the incident, and continue to like re-enrage myself.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Ah,
There's
ah,
such a victim in there, right? Like I have such a victim mindset sometimes where I'm almost like reveling in that, like someone did me wrong and I I want like just imagining all the scenarios.
oh,
So that's been fascinating to watch too.
oh, it's funny. I'm glad that you bring this up. I have this project that is one of my it's my passion project that I'm going to complete at some point in my life. It's a website and a book combined together called Figurative Arts, right?
Yes, that is right. I am so I'm so glad that you're
And
bringing this up.
and the idea being like normally like everybody's like partying. If somebody does that, normally the idea is like you just open up a window and air it out and move on with your day, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what we're doing with our figurative farts here is like we're like bottling it up, right? Putting it in like a jar, and then late at night when we're going to sleep, we're like, right, like oh, let me just
Just
right.
like, oh, yeah, just
It's stupid
disgusting.
when you
Yeah.
think about it that way. It is. It's disgusting. It's not helpful, right? We're just like leading to our own source of misery. We're just letting it linger when really we could just like let it go,
Just let it
let it
open a window. Let it out.
go.
Thank you for I can't wait until we have a whole show about the book Figurative Farts. It's
You
gonna
heard it
be
here first.
fabulous. Well, I wanted to pivot a little bit because I know, we're going to be talking with one of our friends here, and we've started to talk a little bit about, how mindfulness in daily life is much different from like a meditation mindfulness, because meditation is a controlled environment. We're trying to make it so that we're basically like going to the gym. We have this setting where we can use the weights and do it in a safe way, and that's having the cushion, having a place that has our altar and whatnot. We're setting up the scene so that we can focus. But in everyday life, our post meditation or mindfulness is going to be a lot more challenging, because we're coming up against, what we see as these obstacles to our little self that we're trying to protect. And so you brought up one great one about this kind of rage that comes up. And I know we also want to talk with our friend tonight about the obstacle of pain and how we can approach that with some mindfulness. So, without further ado, can we bring on Sue Forrester?
We're gonna try, okay?
We're going to try.
She
Okay,
did tell me that she might experience technical difficulties.
that's
So give
okay.
us just a moment. We're gonna try it. So Sue, I hope that you're listening. You can hopefully you'll just follow the prompt on this screen, okay? So um, it should tell you what to do.
Join as panelist.
That's what it is. It says she's
Yeah.
joining us as a panelist. This is our dear friend Sue Forster.
Yay, Sue.
All right, she's muted right now, but oh, not anymore.
Did I get it right?
You
You
got
got
to.
it right.
You
There
There
did.
I
you
am.
are.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. The lighting is probably not too good because I don't know how to make that happen any better.
It's
You
But
look
perfect.
beautiful.
that's me, and you can hear me.
Yes. Well, you look
So,
radiant. We're so happy to have you on tonight.
well, this is like a wonderful thing. Never happened before, and hope it'll happen again.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. What would you like to have me talk about?
Yes. Well, we've been talking about mindfulness in everyday life and some of the obstacles that we can come into. And we know that at least in our Wednesday night meditations that we've had, sometimes we talk about physical pain. And we know that that's something that maybe you're working with right now in your life. And so we thought we'd have a little conversation about that with you.
Well, that's fine. And it's interesting because I have for a number of years addressed that issue and how to deal with pain in meditation. And I just dawned on me a week or so ago, right before my major knee surgery, that I've never had that kind of pain. So that maybe all the things I've been telling everyone was a bunch of baloney. So what turned out was amazing to me, because I was able, through the actual surgery procedure in the hospital, through the most difficult times, I was able to use my practice almost continuously. And it turned out that the things I remember about the actual hospital part of this adventure are positive. I remember laughing. I remember making comments to the nurses and the doctors and people about thanking them for helping me, and that kind of thing. And how I was able, things that might have been very stressful, I'm laughing about. Whereas I think before, training my mind to be mindful and not try to push away the negative and grasp onto something I wish would happen that wasn't happening. So I think this mindfulness thing, I think the one thing I'd like to share with you all is that I was continually trying to be mindful of my entire body and not let focus the part that was in pain, the part that was difficult, not make that a separate entity, and realize that my body is one unit and we're all working together. And there's parts of my body that weren't hurting, and I can think about those parts and let them join the part that was hurting, and be friendly toward the pain and be friendly toward the part. And I heard that before. And it seemed to me like, oh yeah, right. I'm going to make friends with the pain. Not going to happen. And it did happen. It did happen. It got to be one point where this one repetitive little pain was coming. And finally it was like, oh, there you are, pain. I remember you. And I was kind of looking forward to this little periodic thing as a friend returning. And it sounded strange, but it really, it did happen. And so I think by focusing mindfully on every part of my body, my foot, my shoulders, where can I relax? What part of my body can I find tension in that is not the part that's having the difficulty? And I can work with that. But it was all the ability to be very mindful of everything going on and not just focusing on the difficult part. And also reframing, very important, reframing the way I talked about it. I didn't call it pain. I've stopped calling it pain because that has triggered so many tapes. So I would say, okay, this is a sensation. My left leg has this sensation. My right leg has this sensation. They're different. And I would actually tell myself this. I'm talking to myself internally through all of this. And besides then, of course, the fact that Lama said, when I asked him about how to deal with pain, and he said, well, it always helps to sing.
Hmm.
So I was singing to my leg a lot. And I'm sure the nurses and the people in the hospital that sometimes would catch me doing that and wonder if I should be in a different ward than the one I was in. But I'm telling you, and I can share this other times with more of you, but it worked by focusing in a different way, reframing, not calling the pain, calling it a sensations or discomfort or different from what's happening here. I think all of those things really, really worked. And they're still working because I'm realizing now that I'm not dealing with sudden pain, I'm dealing with long-term recovery difficulties. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's kind of the first thing. And listen, if you have any else you want to know, questions.
I'm curious. Well, first of all, I love the playfulness that you're bringing to it. That's fantastic. Both in the reframing, which I think is actually a little bit playful as well, but the singing as well. I think that's fantastic. I'm curious about two things. The first one is, what is your Pain's favorite song?
My Pain's favorite song is "The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music." And these are some of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, These are my favorite things.
Oh, okay.
Sound of
Those are
music.
two good ones. And the
Beautiful.
other one, I think it's interesting to note, if you listen to a child, sometimes that they don't know you're listening, they'll be playing in a sandbox something and they're singing a silly story. I'm in the sandbox. Here comes the truck man. Here comes, and they just do that. And I do that when it was more intense, the discomfort. I would just start saying foolish things. Thank you, leg. You're such a good leg. I'm so glad I have a leg. You know, just nonsense quote things, but always positive. Always positive. Never, God damn this leg.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah,
always positive and joking about it.
right. I love it. That was actually a better answer than I imagined. I love it. The other thing that I was kind of curious about is sometimes, at least I notice that I will attempt to use mindfulness techniques in order to push something away, right? And it rarely works. It typically sort of makes things worse, and it leads to greater frustration for me. And I was just curious, how do you know if you're doing it
Yeah, that's interesting because sometimes none of those things worked. I sure didn't want it to happen.
right?
And so then I just would catch myself, mindfulness, and I'd say, okay, you're trying to shove this thing away when one, that won't work. And two, why are you shoving it away? It's just part of an experience right now. It's sensations you're having that are not pleasant, but I have lots of unpleasant and lots of pleasant experiences. And it's catching the thought that this is what I'm trying to do. And then there's always call your friend Daniel and talk to him. There are distractions, that when just sitting there and going, the hills are alive, it isn't working. You use other distractions, but not a negative distraction. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It sounds like pain has been an incredible teacher for you these
Yeah,
last weeks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also reading the book that's The Kindness of Others. The book title is The Kindness of Others, and it talks a great deal about how to change your difficult situation, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever, situational, how to turn that into a positive practice. And so there's one chapter particularly on that. And before the surgery, I had read that and was underlining things. So then when the surgery happened, every day I would open that chapter and read the lines that I had underlined
Hmm.
to remind myself to of the positive things and to remind myself of compassion for others. That's the other thing I remember, when some of the most negative things in the hospital might have been happening in a negative, feeling negative about, um, what I was doing was thanking the doctors or thinking of others. And as soon as I started thinking about the others and how much they were doing and how hard it was, their job was, what they were doing for me and for all those people and all the hard difficulty it is that they go through, then my pain actually lessened because I wasn't focusing on myself. I was focusing on how can I make them laugh?
Hmm.
I
How
think
can I make them feel funny, laugh, and have a good time and enjoy the day?
you just pointed to what I was kind of curious about, which is these healthy distractions, right? You
Mhm.
mentioned, for example, picking up the phone and calling somebody. Um, but also, what you pointed to is that thinking about other people in general, right? Even
Mhm.
just thinking about them in a very sort of like intentional way. Maybe, like you said, gratitude for the doctors and nurses. But then also, I think in the book that you mentioned, by the way, thanks for the book recommendation. I love that. It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it as well. I think that the recommendation is really to connect with other people when we're suffering, to really connect with other people suffering as well, to remember, this pain, this stress, this whatever anxiety or depression, there are millions of people, millions usually, that are going through the exact same thing, and to really work with that as well and connect with other people. And when we do that, that can be a healthy form of distraction too, that doesn't involve actually engaging.
When you realize that you have it so much better than so many other people, and the gratitude, the Sangha members, I mean, Sangha members have been coming here every other day. Someone's here to bring food and to encourage me and to get my medicine and to do things. And just when you feel that kind of gratitude for people, your little difficulties really get minimal.
So we have a couple of people in the audience here. I'm going to just take a minute because we only have a few minutes left here, just to see if you guys have any comments or questions about pain or relating to pain mindfully for Sue.
I would first like to say that I've been using mindfulness. Got the candy for a reason. Be mindful. So I read they're 100 calories a piece. So you have 2 pieces.
Daniel, could you repeat briefly what? Yeah, we couldn't hear.
Yeah, he was saying he's been trying to apply mindfulness practices, and in fact, he's the one who was guilty for giving me a couple, at least a few hundred calories worth of candies. Was there like anything about the pain?
You know, I experience a lot of
Yep.
listening to people share about their pain.
There we go.
Well, I was listening to Sue talk about focusing on the area that I needed to hear.
There you go. So the comment being that listening to Sue talk about focusing on a part of the body that doesn't hurt, he was saying, he was thinking about like how his ear doesn't hurt and related to that, and that it was helpful to hear somebody else talking about pain and recognizing that somebody else is, obviously going through something.
Right.
Similar.
Well, I think the other thing I just want to say, it's way important to do this ahead of time. On the cushion time that I have put in over a number of years, and you can do it. It doesn't have to be years, but you need to prepare on the cushion for everything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Yep.
But thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you.
It's been great to see you too, Sue.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that your recovery is going well and that it's just been like a wealth of Dharma learnings.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So awesome. And thanks everyone in the audience. It was great to have you here. Look forward to more time together. See you next week, everybody.
Bye, Jack. Take care. Bye, Sue.